Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty news nearly 5% this week. That's the biggest fall in over 2 years. All sectoral indices closed in the red. Nearly 18 lakh crore rupees of investor wealth wiped out in the last 5 days. Foreign investors continue to relentlessly sell Indian shares. They sell 15,000 crore rupees worth of stock yesterday on a net basis. That's the highest in 4 years. Market watchers say a slew of stimulus measures are resulting in tactical money flowing into China. However, many believe it's too early to call time on India's bull market. Powerful blasts rock Beirut as Israel targets the Hezbollah headquarters and its new leader in a fresh escalation. More than 1,900 people have been killed in Lebanon so far. Crude oil prices edge higher with Brent nearing the $80 mark. The RBI Monetary Policy Committee with 3 new members will meet next week to decide on key policy rates. The CNBC TV-18 Citizen Monetary Policy Committee expects a status quo, but a majority expect a change in stance to facilitate rate cuts in the near future. The government is committed to reducing the fiscal deficit to 4.9% this financial year, says Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman promises to nearly double the per capita income within 5 years. All 90 assembly seats in Haryana go to the polls tomorrow. The BJP aims for a hat-trick while the Congress looks to end the decade-long power drought. Aam Aadmi Party, Dushyant Chautala and Abhay Chautala are hoping to play kingmakers. Results will be announced on the 8th of October. US port workers agreed to end their strike after companies sweetened the offer on wages. President Biden hails the agreement, saying collective bargaining works. Well, let's start with the market action for the day. And there was simply no respite for the bulls on Dalal-street today. And the sell-off that we saw yesterday continued with the Sensex and the Nifty losing nearly 1% today and 5% this week. The marks the biggest weekly decline in over 2 years. That's the Sensex down 800 points, 235-point cut on the Nifty. The mid-cap index losing 550. The Nifty Bank down by about 383 points. Now, all sectoral indices closing in the red today, barring the Nifty Metal Index. The Nifty managing to cling on to the 25,000 mark, though. And Prashant is here to wrap up the market action for us. It's been a tough week, Prashant.
A large down day once again. If you thought that yesterday was bad, well, today was not worse, but it didn't give you any relief whatsoever. The market ended down about 200 points lower on the Nifty, which means for the week, the market, by the way, is down a little over 4%. I think it's the worst week we've had since the beginning of the year. The Nifty Bank had it much better. It was down just about 0.5, 0.6 odd percent. Of course, that lost a lot more in terms of trade yesterday. Mid-cap index for the week was down 3%. For the day, we were down about 0.8 odd percent or so. I'll start with, the large cap. Actually, sectorally speaking, there were only 2 areas which ended higher: PSU banks and the IT services space. And IT stocks, of course, will be first off the block in terms of reporting earnings. I'll start with what was down in terms of Nifty names. Mahindra & Mahindra was down 3.5%. Nestle was down 3%. Bajaj Finance was down 3%. Hero MotoCorp was down 2.5%. BPCL, Asian Paints, Britannia, Ultratech Cements. These are all 2% plus cuts that we had in terms of trade. On the upside, as I said, tech was higher. Infosys, HDFC Life and ONGC were the 3 sole 1% plus gainers that we had by the end of it. Lots of losers, 2:1 clean declines to advances ratio, more down than up. What was down biggest with volumes? Adani Energy, that is Adani Energy Solutions, number 1 volume-led loser. Reliance Power was down 5%. Godrej Properties, Mahindra & Mahindra Finance, business update stock smashed 7%. Reliance Infra had a one-way rally, 8% lower. You had KRN Energy Heat Exchangers, which is the recent listing, down 6%. Chambal Fertilizer, Amber Enterprises, K Fintech Solutions, PC Jewelers, and a few others as well. On the upside, you had names like Oil India. Big move in oil prices last 2 days. VIP Industries was a gainer, 8%, big move. And there were names like Home First, which ended up about 5.5% as well. Tough week, the toughest we've had since the beginning of the year, as I said. And markets still waiting on the edge for what comes out of Middle East. Will we see developments over the weekend? I think that's the big question. Back to you.
Well, a tough week indeed, Prashant. Many thanks for joining us. And as Prashant was pointing out, foreign institutional investors are hot on China, at least for the moment. Market watchers say that a slew of stimulus measures announced by China's central bank last month are resulting in a tactical money flow into the country. However, many believe that it is too early to call time on India's bull market. Hormuz is standing by now. Hormuz FIIs taking to China again, but India very much in the game.
You know, these last few days, the fall that we have witnessed in the Indian markets, one of the biggest factors has been the relentless selling from the FIIs in the cash markets. Yesterday was one such incident, almost $2 billion worth of selling. There have been many analysts who have come up and said that money is moving out of India into the Chinese markets, and the graphic that comes up on your screen now will be proof of that. Before going into the holiday season, the Chinese markets, the CSI 300 index, between the 18th to the 30th of September, that 9 trading sessions that they had, the index was up 27% from almost at a 52-week low, jumping to a 52-week high during this period. In contrast, over the last 4 sessions, ever since the Nifty made a record high last Thursday, since then the index is already down 4% from those levels, 1,000 points down on the Nifty, and the fall in the broader markets has been much worse. So there has been an outflow of money into the Chinese markets. But is this the start of a bull run in China and not so much in the Indian markets? Well, not many on the street are convinced about this rally in the Chinese markets, and Rajiv Jain of GQG is one of them. And he mentions very clearly that how many times in the last 3 years we have seen this excitement only for it to peter out in the months ahead. And he also mentions that if this party in the Chinese markets goes on without them, they are fine with it, and that's because Rajiv Jain in his funds have been underweight on the Chinese markets. And he said that this is a trade, a good trade at that, but is it investable for a 3, 4, 5 year period? That is questionable. Citi came out with a note and they mentioned that the CSI 300, as I just highlighted, was up almost 30% during this session. Multiple policy announcements that were supportive of this rally in China, but this recent outperformance has made sure that the Chinese markets have caught up with India in terms of performance. But in the Indian markets, the strong macro outlook and the flows from domestic investors will ensure that the markets remain resilient going forward as well. And Govt research also came out with a view. They said that even if this China rally sustains, many foreign investors are reluctant, and they remain reluctant to invest there, and the headwinds in China will become tailwinds for the Indian markets going forward. And although they put in a caveat saying that while these foreign investors may find better value in terms of a lot of other emerging markets compared to India, but it is too early to call time on India's bull market.
It's a bad thing if China market does well for us, as in mostly for India. It is not bad for India per se. I don't think that beyond some shorter term thing, investors have to sell India to buy China, because India, I don't think in aggregate people are overweight. There might be 1% plus minus overweight. So if you were underweight China, that would have come from the rest of the world. India and China, even an emerging market fund combined, would be say 20 and 25, 26 now. So half the investment of people who are able to move this around is in non-India, non-China.
Well, the jury's still out on the bounce back in the Chinese markets, and of course, not too much by way of pessimism about India at this point in time. Global story. Powerful blasts continue to rock Lebanon's capital, Beirut, as Israel targeted the Hezbollah headquarters and its potential new leader. And these strikes come amidst Iran's foreign minister's visit to Beirut. The Lebanese health ministry said around 37 people were killed, 151 wounded in the past 24 hours. Israel claims 2 rockets were launched from the Lebanon towards Haifa, an important port city in Israel. Both these rockets were intercepted. Hezbollah said its fighters bombed a military base in northern Israel. However, no deaths were reported. The Israeli armies also ordered residents of 20 towns in southern Lebanon to evacuate immediately, hinting at a potential escalation of ground operations. But evacuations are proving to be difficult after Israel bombed a key route. Meanwhile, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei delivered his first sermon in 5 years. He claims Israel will not last long and that Iran's attack on Tel Aviv was minimum punishment for Israel's crimes. Staying with West Asia, at least 18 people killed as Israel struck a refugee camp in the West Bank. Israeli military claims to have killed a local Hamas leader during the strike. The UN Agency for Refugees confirmed that at least 21 Palestinians have been killed in 3 school shelters in Gaza over the last 2 days. Over 41,000 Palestinians have been killed and over 96,000 have been injured since the war began nearly a year ago. The 7th of October will mark 1 year of the Hamas attack on Israel and the war in Gaza. From one war-torn region to another, at least 3 people, including 6-year-old girl, were killed after Russian drones hit a truck delivering gas cylinders to homes in Ukraine. A Russian glide bomb struck a 5-story apartment block in northeastern Kharkiv, injuring 12 people. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry said it intercepted 113 Ukrainian drones over 4 Russian regions on the border with Ukraine. Crude oil prices continue to inch higher amidst the tensions in West Asia. Brent crude has gone up from $70 at the start of October to more than $77 in just 4 days. However, brokerages expect the gains to remain limited as there continues to be weak demand that will perhaps weigh on prices in the near term. Striking dock workers in the US have agreed to return to work after employers offered a 62% increase in wages over 6 years. This as per Reuters report. The tentative deal raises average wages to about $63 an hour from $39 an hour over the life of the contract. Now, the RBI Monetary Policy Committee, with 3 new members, will meet next week to decide on key policy rates. The CNBC TV-18 Citizens Monetary Policy Committee expects a status quo on rates, but a majority expect a change in stance to neutral, which should facilitate rate cuts in the near future. Take a look.
What will the Reserve Bank and the MPC do to rates? Let me start with you, Sajid.
Hold rates, they'll pause.
Hold. Okay, hold. Shaumyo?
It's
Hold. Okay. Sonal?
They should cut 25 basis point.
Here's the first cut. Samiran?
No change.
3:1, sir, in favor of hold. Dr. Chairman?
Hold.
Hold. Okay, so it's 4:1 in favor of holding the policy. Change of stance. Will the MPC change its stance from the current withdrawal of accommodation? Sajid?
change to neutral.
Oh, okay. Sonal?
Change to neutral.
Obviously, you voted for a cut. Samiran?
Hold on to the stance,
Hold.
but it's going to be a close call.
Okay. Shaumyo?
We'll hold on to the stance.
Okay. 2 holds, 2 change to neutral. Dr. Sen?
Change to neutral.
Change to neutral. I think your members are veering to your point of view. Now, the final question, when do you see the first rate cut? Sajid?
We're looking at December.
Okay. Sonal, I think yours is October, right?
Yes.
October. You already said that. Samiran, your first rate cut?
February or April.
Okay. Shaumyo?
February.
Dr. Sen?
Yeah, I would go with February or April.
Okay. So there you are, the majority expecting the first rate cut only next calendar, but there are at least 2 people dissenting and 1 expecting a cut right away. Makes it a very interesting policy.
Well, we will find out here when the MPC meets and delivers its verdict, and you can catch the action live on CNBC TV-18. Now, the Cabinet has approved a proposal to streamline all centrally sponsored schemes under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers into 2 comprehensive umbrella schemes. A budget of 1 lakh crore rupees has been allocated to both initiatives, which aim to improve farmer income. The government has also approved the phase 2 of the Chennai Metro with a project cost of 63,000 crore rupees. The government has also decided to add 5 Indian languages to the classical languages category. These include Polba and Maharashtra's language Marathi, along with Pali, Prakrit, Assamese and Bengali. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that the government is committed to reducing the fiscal deficit and has estimated to bring it down to 4.9% in FY25. Speaking at the Kautilya Economic Conclave, the Finance Minister promised to nearly double the per capita income within 5 years. She also said the government has a sustained policy focusing on India's banking sector.
Our government continues to uphold its commitment to reducing the fiscal deficit, aided by buoyant revenue generation, restrained revenue expenditure growth, and healthy economic activity. The fiscal deficit is estimated to decline further from 5.6% of GDP in FY24, I'm basing on provisional actuals, to 4.9% in FY25. The decline in commodity prices has facilitated the lowering of the budget allocation for subsidies on fertilizer and fuel. India seeks to double its per capita income in a matter of few years for its 1.4 billion population, which makes up about 18% of the global total. In a fragmented and fractured world, where several persistent conflicts may worsen, posing a threat to global peace that is the bedrock for prosperity. To reach a per capita income of $2,730 as per IMF projections, it will take only 5 years to add another $2,000.
Well, that's the Finance Minister. Now, shares of HDFC Bank rose in early trade after private lender released its shareholding pattern for the September quarter. The bank has indicated that its FII headroom remains safely above 20%. According to Nuvama Research, the bank is expected to attract $1.8 billion next month as MSCI is likely to increase its weightage in its index. SpiceJet has said that it has deposited all pension fund dues for 10 months. This comes after the airline cleared all pending salaries and GST dues after raising 3,000 crore rupees last month. SpiceJet says it's on track with its financial and operational plan outlined in its QIP strategy. IPO-bound Swiggy has received shareholder approval to increase the size of its primary issue. As per a money control report, the food aggregator platform will raise the size from 3,750 crore rupees to 5,000 crore rupees. The report says that Swiggy has created a provision for a larger IPO size in case the company requires additional funds. However, the offer for sale component will remain unchanged at over 6,000 crore rupees. In a bid to expand its India footprint, iPhone maker Apple is planning to add 4 more retail stores in Bengaluru, Pune, Delhi, NCR and Mumbai. According to reports, the stores are expected to open next year. The retail expansion comes on the back of strong sales in its Delhi and Mumbai flagship stores. Apple has also confirmed that it has started making the entire iPhone 16 lineup in India. We'll head into a break, but when we return, DMart reports weaker than expected sales growth in Q1 is quick commerce hurting brick and mortar players. That and more when we return. Haryana is all set to go to the polls tomorrow. More than 1,000 candidates are in the race for 90 assembly seats. Results will be declared on the 8th of October. The polls will see a direct contest between the BJP and the Congress, while other parties could play kingmaker in case of a hung assembly. The BJP, which replaced Manohar Lal Khattar with Nayab Saini as the chief minister in March this year, is eyeing a hat-trick. The Congress is looking to end its decade-long power drought in the state. The party won 5 out of the 10 Haryana seats in the Lok Sabha elections. Dushyant Chautala's JJP, which walked out of its alliance with the BJP in March this year, has formed an alliance with Chandrasekhar Azad, Bravan's Azad Samaj Party. Abhay Chautala, who heads the INLD, has tied up with the Bahujan Samaj Party. The Aam Aadmi is contesting solo. The Supreme Court has ordered an independent investigation to the alleged adulteration of laddus at the Tirupati temple. The independent special investigative team, headed by the CBI director, will replace the SIT formed by the Andhra Pradesh government. The apex court maintained that an independent investigation was needed to assuage the hurt sentiments of crores of devotees. Ashmit standing by now with more details. So, Ashmit, essentially, the Supreme Court not leaving it to the state SIT.
Indeed, and that's after the apex court had raised question marks over how independent this SIT will be, the one appointed by the Andhra Pradesh government, in light of the comments that have been made by Chandrababu Naidu. The Supreme Court was not impressed with that, saying that there is no evidence to suggest that the contamination being spoken of, that the contamination being alleged of the prasadam, of the ghee in question, was in fact animal fat. There is no evidence to that end. There is also no evidence to pointing towards the fact whether that contaminated ghee had been used for the prasadam. And in the absence of that, the apex court expressed frustration as to why constitutional position holders like the Chief Minister would make remarks asserting that there was indeed contamination and that is something that should not have been done. The apex court also said that it will not allow the use of the Supreme Court, of the judiciary, as a platform for politics, and with that to assuage the sentiments, quote-unquote, assuage the sentiments of crores and crores of devotees. The Supreme Court said that the best course forward is to not go ahead with the SIT appointed by the Andhra Pradesh government, rather substitute it with one that has been appointed now by the Apex Court. It's a 5-member committee. There will be 2 members from the CBI, 2 members from the Andhra Pradesh administration, and importantly, 1 member from the FSSAI as well. The Apex Court has very clearly pointed out that this 5-member SIT will work under the supervision of the CBI director. They will file their reports and their findings to the Apex Court. So the Apex Court trusting the hands of this court-appointed SIT rather than the Andhra Pradesh government-appointed SIT.
All right, Ashpit, appreciate you joining us. Now, supermarkets, Kirana stores are feeling the heat as more people get hooked to quick commerce apps, especially for grocery needs. Take the case of D-Mart, one of India's biggest supermarkets. Its revenue growth per store has been declining over the last few quarters. Experts, however, say that Kirana stores would be the worst hit by quick commerce. Shilpa standing by now to take us through the details. Shilpa, quick commerce moving up the queue when it comes to Indian shoppers' grocery needs. What does this mean for modern trade?
Well, you know, first we spoke about the impact on e-commerce, then we spoke about kiranas, and now modern trade is also feeling the heat. And the best way to sort of demonstrate this is to look at D-Mart's recent numbers in its Q2 update. Now, the sales per store grew just 1% year on year, right? And then even if you look at the revenue growth per store, it came in at about 2.2%, which is much slower than the past 2 quarters where it was about 5.5%. Now, the D-Mart CEO had also said, you know, in certain reports earlier that 1 to 2% is the possible impact that they could see from quick commerce in Mumbai, and they don't have any quick commerce plans, but instead they'll focus on opening stores where these apps have a high demand. Now, this sort of demonstrates that modern trade also is seeing the pinch, because when it comes to quick commerce apps, which was earlier just for your, you know, last minute top-up purchases, there is a shift in the consumer demand where consumers are now going there for their monthly needs also. Now, a recent Nielsen IQ report said that 20% of offline shoppers are now buying all their grocery needs online, where their entire grocery needs, right, like the main things that you normally go once a week or once a month to the supermarket, those are now being shopped online by nearly 31% of the shoppers, and 39% of them are using it for top-up purchases only. So there is a large number that is now shopping on quick commerce that would have otherwise gone to a store to buy, and 60% of shoppers are buying their monthly essential staples online. And you know, 32% are still, however, visiting modern trade, because modern trade supermarkets still have a value proposition of having better store experience, etc. But the harder hit, however, is going to be Kirana stores, and that is where we are going to see more consumer demand, shift in demand coming from. Modern trade, yes, is getting impacted, but the impact is not going to be that large. Back to you.
All right, Shilpa, appreciate you joining us. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. More news and updates will continue right here on CNBC TV18. Stay tuned. We're back in a minute with more.